During the Great Depression, people sought nostalgic flavors, making do with what was available. Today, we delve into the culinary world of the Great Depression. We'll explore how economic hardships led to the creation of unique dishes, some of which are still popular today, and how the First Lady herself played a pivotal role in promoting frugal cooking. If you find this video interesting, please support us by hitting the like button. Now, let's get started. In September 1929, the Great Depression began with the historic event of the U.S. stock market crash. This event transformed the lives of the American people, causing unemployment to soar, personal incomes to drop dramatically, and forcing people to devise ways to make ends meet. As a result, the Great Depression brought about tremendous changes in American culture and lifestyle. One of the most significant impacts was on the food culture. At that time, the need for frugality in the U.S. was immense, prompting the entire nation to collaborate on crafting economical recipes. This desperate effort led to the creation of some of the most unique and unusual recipes in Depression-era America. What kind of food did people create during this time? The recipes often featured unexpected ingredients and combinations, all crafted to be cost-effective. The Great Depression caused the U.S. gross domestic product to drop by about 15%. In addition, a quarter of all Americans were unemployed, forcing people to economize and cut back on food expenses. One woman was the first to take a stand against this situation. In the United States, she was Eleanor Roosevelt, wife of then U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt. She was studying nutrition and home economics at Cornell University. Eleanor Roosevelt was the First Lady, but she was also what we would now call a frugal cook. And she took the initiative as First Lady to demonstrate a nutritious and economical diet to help people survive the Great Depression. Usually, when one thinks of the meals of the President and the First Lady, one thinks of sumptuous foods and top chefs. However, this is a time when the people are facing poverty and hunger. Due to the Great Depression, Eleanor must have thought that in such a situation, it was not the time for only the head of the country to have a sumptuous meal. So the president and his wife decided to practice a simple diet, at least when they were in the presence of guests and the press. The menu, for example, included boiled eggs, mashed potatoes, bean and tomato stew, and other dishes that were far from a feast. Desserts were also very simple and homey. One example is prune whip. Prunes were popular at the time because they could be preserved as dried fruit, making them easy to use in the home. Prune whip was a simple dessert, made by combining prunes with whisked egg whites and sugar. At that time, fresh fruit was considered a luxury, with many turning to dried fruit as a more accessible alternative. Even the president and his wife, despite their slightly better position, often opted for dried fruit over fresh. Among everyday people, more unconventional substitutes were used in place of fruit. For example, the Desperation pie was made with apple vinegar made from apples, in addition to the eggs, butter, and sugar used in a typical pie. Apple vinegar is a sour acid. No matter how many apples were used in the original recipe, this is why it has become a substitute that bears no resemblance to sweet apple pie. According to those who actually tried it, its taste was close to mustard. We do not recommend forcing yourself to eat it. However, those in pursuit of the apple pie flavor crafted something even more unusual. The filling for this imitation apple pie was made of Ritz crackers. They did not use crackers as the pie crust, but only used Ritz as the pie filling instead of apples. While traditional pie dough is made of flour and butter, this pie had crackers, also made of flour, as its filling. It is quite an unexpected idea. When lemon juice and sugar are added to the Ritz crackers, they look and feel much like stewed apples. But of course, the taste will not be apple. However, this pie, known as mock apple pie, has a unique charm and remains popular even today. As evidence of its popularity, a recipe for this mock apple pie can be found on the back of Ritz cracker boxes. Surprisingly, the one using vinegar introduced earlier, Desperation pie, has also been revisited in recent years and has been recreated by famous chefs. The desire of the people who pursued the taste even in the midst of hard life has led to the modern diet. In this way, people at that time were trying to recreate the nostalgic taste somehow. However, even in a poor life, it is necessary to think about eating a nutritious diet for health. There was one ingredient that people at that time focused on. That was milk. Milk was indispensable during the Great Depression because it was rich in protein, vitamins, and minerals, and other nutrients. And because it was available at a low price, the government recommended drinking nearly a liter of milk every day. And it was also served daily in school lunches. In addition, many new dishes were introduced, one after another, that used milk to save money and provide nutritional value. One of these was the casserole. To put it simply, it is like a casserole dish baked in the oven. It is an easy dish in which all the various ingredients are baked together. The idea of an economical and nutritious meal recommended by Eleanor Roosevelt, mentioned earlier, was also used in this casserole dish. The ingredients for this casserole, which was a popular dish at the time, were spaghetti, carrots, and a white sauce made with milk. The ingredients may sound like cream pasta, but unfortunately, the spaghetti in this casserole was somehow cooked until it turned into a sludge. To my surprise, the spaghetti was boiled for 25 minutes. This is more than twice as long as the typical boiling time. As those who usually cook might be able to guess, this is far from the al dente texture, where pasta retains a slight bite or crunchiness. I tried to find out why it needed to be so soggy, but I couldn't figure it out. Personally, I think it was an attempt to increase the amount of spaghetti as much as possible with less spaghetti. This Depression-era casserole featured overcooked spaghetti and overly boiled carrots, all combined in a white sauce. Eleanor Roosevelt introduced this casserole as the ideal nutritious dish. It is certainly nutritious, easy to digest, and even babies and people with bad teeth can eat it. But would you like to try it? I would refrain from doing so. There were various money-saving innovations used in home-cooked meals. For example, one of them is loaf, a dish in which various ingredients are baked into squares. One of the most popular was meatloaf, a hamburger-like dish in a square baking dish. Authentic meatloaf is a bit of a feast, with meat as the main ingredient. However, during the Great Depression, it was not possible to use plenty of luxurious ingredients such as meat. So, loaf, which could be made with inexpensive ingredients, became popular. What they lacked in quantity of the main ingredient, meat, they made up for with other ingredients such as crackers and bread. In some cases, the loaf was baked using only readily available ingredients such as beans and peanuts. The Americans may have had a technique of turning whatever ingredients they had left over into loaf. When arranged with the addition of ketchup or canned soup, the recipe was also handed down, showing that people at that time were trying to enrich their tables somehow. Next, I would like to introduce mulligan stew. This stew was a creation of those who lost their homes during the Great Depression and became vagabonds while seeking work. It seems that during their wandering, some of them would get together and prepare a meal together. Each would bring what ingredients they could get their hands on, and everything would be stewed together to make a stew. That was the way mulligan stew was prepared. Ingredients that were often included in Depression-era mulligan stew were stolen onions, corn, potatoes, and any kind of greens that could be picked from somewhere. Sometimes, if you were lucky, there were meatballs in it. So far, aside from the right and wrong of stealing, it seems like a normal meal. However, one surprising ingredient sometimes added to this mulligan stew might deter many from trying it. That ingredient was tobacco. Tobacco is certainly an aromatic ingredient, but to substitute it for herbs and spices is a surprise. During the Great Depression, with limited resources, people consistently innovated, often driven by a yearning for nostalgic flavors. And it was not uncommon for that challenge to end in failure, resulting in the creation of outrageous dishes that were anything but delicious. However, in some cases, they gave birth to a very popular food culture that is still indispensable to the American dining table even today. It is the macaroni and cheese, or mac and cheese for short, which is an everyday staple of the American diet, and can be found in fast food restaurants and school cafeterias alike. The dish, which originated in Europe, was introduced to the United States by Thomas Jefferson, the third president, who encountered mac and cheese during a dinner in France in 1802. Originally relished by President Thomas Jefferson, mac and cheese became a labor-intensive home-cooked dish before the Great Depression. In 1937, instant mac and cheese was introduced, which consisted of a packet of cheese powder and macaroni. The product was marketed as a quick meal that could be prepared simply by boiling macaroni and mixing it with cheese powder and milk. An early advertisement for the product depicted a bewildered and happy husband asking how they managed to make hot mac and cheese so quickly. Incidentally, the price at the time of its release was 19 cents for 4 servings. This was about the same price as a can of corn or a can of tomatoes, so it was also an affordable price, and it became very popular. During the Depression, macaroni and cheese stood out as an affordable and flavorful dish, offering a convenience akin to canned food. Today, it remains a staple on American supermarket shelves, exemplifying the Depression-era trend of cost and time efficiency in eating, as people became increasingly creative with their diets. Through that era, there are now countless variations of frozen and instant foods that can be easily prepared. And many new products have been marketed that pursue taste and nutrients. Reflecting on the history behind the foods we often take for granted can deepen our appreciation for them. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. Take care and see you in the next video. Goodbye.